Okay, so we are going to make cinnamon candy apple jelly. And here we have 4.5 pounds of apples. I believe, Fuji. Yep, we have Fuji, 4.5 pounds. And we have some cinnamon candy canes left over from Christmas. No one's eating them. I'm the only one that really likes cinnamon, but they like apple jelly. So we're going to try this out. Cinnamon candy apple jelly. So we had our 4.5 pound bag of apples. I minused 2 because our pot is just about full. I have 6 cups of filtered water and a splash of lemon juice to keep them from browning, just to keep our color nice. So I just take my apple and slice it in half and cut out my core. You can keep the core in if your cores are pretty. Our cores are not pretty, and I don't want them. And they look like they would taste kind of bittery. So, no, my knife skills are not professional. Don't do what I do. It's not safe. And then you'll put them in your pot with your 6 cups of filtered water. Splash of lemon juice. And just get them underneath the water as best as you can. And then place them on your stove top on just around medium heat. Let cook for about 30 to 45 minutes uncovered, and then about an hour and a half covered is what I like to do. I know a lot of people do not do it for as long, but I like it. Our jelly tastes really good. My kids love it. So we are sticking to the method that we find tried and true. Cook long and slow, get really good juice, and we'll come back to it. Here are the apples cooking after about 40 minutes. You can see the water is a rolling boil. So we are going to lower ours just a little to like a medium low, just above medium low. And I'm going to cover my apples and let them cook for about an hour like that. And after about an hour, we'll cook them for another half hour uncovered. And once it's covered, you also can add about 2 to 4 tablespoons of just white sugar, just to help extract some of the apple juice from the apples. And that's really all we're doing. So if you are going to can your candied apple jelly, or as I'm calling it, my cinnamon candy apple jelly, because that's what it is, then you will want to make sure you wash your jars and your lids and your rings. I do not boil my rings. I don't feel the need to, because I'm going to can them anyway. And with your jars, after you wash them and sanitize them, you want to make sure you put them into your hot water, submerged down there, so they get nice and warm. That way when you put your hot jelly in your jars, they are just as warm as the hot jelly. And see, we have our apples boiling now. I'm going to let these go for probably about another 30 minutes, and then we should be able to strain them. So we finished letting our apples boil, cook. And as you can see, they have done so. Nice and soft. And ready to be strained, which we're going to do now. And right now, because it's kind of late at night and I'm working alone with no help holding the camera, we have just set in a strainer in a bowl, and I've dumped it all in there. And then I'm just going to lift it out, strain out, put the apples back in, and use a smaller mesh strainer to access more of the juice from the apples. So now I pulled the strainer out of the bowl, put the apples back into the pan for now, and using a smaller mesh strainer to get more of the juice out. And I just take the spoon and squish them down, and it just releases more of the juice. And I do that until I get all the juice out. So I have been straining the apples to get the juice, and we had our cinnamon candy canes in a jar here. I just took some of that juice from in the apples to get the candy in there. As you can see, it's starting to turn the color, and I figured I'd let those soak in while we get the juice. Now what we have done is taken 3/4 cup of cane sugar, is what I did, and 2 tablespoons of real fruit pectin, and combined those together in a bowl, or in a giant measuring cup as I have here. And you mix those two together, and then once your candy is melted into your apple juice, and I like to leave some of the apple chunks, the cooked apple, just a little bit, not enough to make it like a jam or even like a marmalade, just kind of gives it that little bit of like texture. And when you eat it, you don't feel chunks. It's delicious. It's really good. We did it with all of our peppered jellies, and it came out wonderful. So, see, right now we're letting all that candy dissolve. I'm going to let it heat up to close to a boil, and then I will add that sugar pectin mixture to this, and then we will let it reboil again, and then add the rest of the sugar, let that cook, add the rest of the pectin, and then we will have jelly. Alright, I believe our candy has melted. It is just about to come to that boiling point. See how nice and steamy and hot it is. So we are going to add our sugar pectin mix. Stir that in. Let that dissolve. So after we let that first initial pectin and sugar mixture melt in, we add the rest of our sugar, which is 6 cups. And then you want to gently stir that in. And you let this dissolve and cook into the jelly and pectin juice mixture we have here. So once that sugar all dissolves and gets a little bit hotter, we can add the rest of our pectin and mix it up. So at this point, you now want to turn off your heat for your jelly. Give it a little stir. Let it cool for about 1 minute, and then we're going to go ahead and put those in our jars. So once you have your jars out of your water and your jelly mix cooled for 1 minute, you take your funnel, your jar funnel, and a ladle, and scoop up your mix. And go ahead and add that to your jar. And you want to go to the bottom of that ring. When the liquid inside reaches your funnel, you're where you want to be, right there. I'm just gonna take your funnel, move it to your next jar, and repeat. Once you have the hot jelly in your jars, you can poke it with a knife on the sides just to kind of get some of those air bubbles out. I like to, otherwise I notice it gets kind of bubbly on the top. And then once you do that in all your jars, take a dampened cloth and make sure you clean the edges of your jars very well. Take one of your clean lids and rings, place on top, and finger tighten, which means just to slightly tighten enough before you put it into its water bath. So now we have the jelly in the jars with clean rims, lids on, rings to finger tighten, and in the water bath for 20 minutes. And now here's our processed cinnamon candy apple jelly. And I tasted some and it is cinnamony and yummy. We only ended up doing a half a cup of cinnamon. It called for a cup of cinnamon candy. I only had a half a cup and I'm happy with the result. It still tastes like a fireball, but not super fiery. So I don't know if my youngest son will like it or not. My daughter is gonna love it. And it is so pretty, and there are little pieces of apple in there too. Yummy. I love good homemade jelly. That is the best.